McCarthy, great friend, former House Speaker, and Kevin Hassett, former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors under Mr. Trump and distinguished fellow at the Hoover Institute and the author of The Drift, Stopping America's Slide to Socialism. Gentlemen, thank you for this. Obviously, we have to attend to the breaking news. And I want to go to Speaker McCarthy and get your first takes on this, Kevin. What do you think?
Well, I think you said it right in your commentary, that there is a two-tier justice system. What has come out in this report, these are the actions that have to be taken. Jack Smith should drop any movement against President Trump. Clear. It's fundamentally different. You know it's politically motivated. How can they move forward? Second, this is different as President Biden when he was vice president, but there's a point I want to emphasize even greater that you brought it up. I was part of the Gang of Eight, so I would get classified documents. At no time could a member of Congress or a U.S. senator ever remove one of those classified documents from the SCIF. If you removed it from the SCIF, right then you knew you were breaking the law. He had that document all this time. And the third thing that I think should be most concerning to every person in America, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever, this specifies that President Biden is not up for the job. I have personally witnessed this in the Oval Office experiences with him. He is not at the capability of doing this job. He talks about, he went to this hearing when Israel was attacked. He put a lid on talking to the world as the leader of the free world when we were having war break out. You cannot do it at that time. His greatest challenge for re-election is something he cannot fix, his age. And right now, they just wrote a report telling you that they can't charge him because they couldn't hold up that he could even prove it. And he's president of the United States today. He shouldn't even think about running again.
And Kevin, I just want to emphasize that with respect to the report, because the report says that, particularly with respect to classified documents around Afghanistan, the report says clearly that Biden knew that his retaining possession of those documents was illegal. It says that right in here. Now, how that can go uncharged? Look, I know the report says Biden doesn't have all his marbles. I mean, I think almost everybody knows that. You just said that again. Okay, I get that. The nicest guy I know, Kevin Hassett, probably would agree with that too. I'm going to bring him in 1 minute. Don't think you're going to get off scot-free today, Kevin, because you're not. But Speaker McCarthy, how can they bust Trump? How can they bust Trump, who had the authority for possession, okay, and not go after Biden? Or if you're going to leave Biden alone because he doesn't have his marbles and he's slightly senile, then how the hell you go after Trump? Why don't you drop the charges against Trump too? Let's go even Steven. You know what I mean? Easy peasy. Even Steven. Take both off the table.
Yeah, but also,
because it was a scam
Larry,
to begin
remember
with.
this.
Yeah, sorry.
But Larry, remember this. How did they go and take the documents? When they went into Mar-a-Lago, instead of calling President Trump, they went into FBI rolling. They wanted the whole world to look at it. They went through Melania's clothes. They tried to break into safes. They did everything they could. And now we're finding out, even when you go down to the court case in Atlanta, why were they meeting in the White House before they charged the president? It just shows the political of what they're going after President Trump on. They're weaponizing the DOJ. It shows this, but also we know this president just in the last couple days has told us that he has talked to people that were foreign leaders that had died decades before, saying he just met with them.
Yeah, that was
What does that
bad.
do to the weakness of the country? Yeah, and so it's a much more, we now know that we have a weaponized system proven. We now know they're using it, trying to get President Trump not to be able to run for office again. They now acknowledge that our current president does not have the mental capabilities to even be tried, even though they knowing that what he did was illegal. That's fundamentally different than what they're trying to go after President Trump on. And it is just appalling that this is all happening in America. And this one report proves every single point we've been trying to make for the last 4 years.
Kevin Hassett, you saw all the classified documents. You had access to the morning CIA, DNI briefings, as I did. the stuff that went right to the president and the vice president, but we weren't allowed to take anything out. That stuff had to go back into the skips under a locked box. My ladies up on the second floor would nag me to death just to make sure that we weren't doing anything illegal. There was nothing. Now, you could say I didn't have all my marbles then. All right, maybe so. But my ladies had their marbles, and they wouldn't let me do a darn thing. So I just don't see how a sitting vice president, and by the way, is a senator. He took stuff out as a senator. There's no law that says senators can take possession of classified documents. That goes right into the archives. And if he wants to read them in the archives for his book or whatever, he does it in a skiff. Anyway, Kevin, you went through something similar. What do you think?
Right. Well, I'll say three quick things. The first thing is that you remember my friend Joe Sullivan, who worked with me. He had the same clearance you and I did, but he was a young guy with a really sharp mind, and he always was with me when I was looking at classified documents to make sure I didn't make some kind of mistake, pick up the wrong thing or anything, because it's so serious. It's such a serious felony if you do something wrong with that. The second thing I want to say is that this idea that President Biden is not mentally capable, I just want to say that, you know, I had lunch with him when he was vice president, and he was always very charming and very with it. And the fact is that he's got these documents that he had to have taken at a time where whatever he's doing right now, his mind was sharp. He was a guy that you could talk to, and he was really interesting and fun to have lunch with. And the point is that it just shows the logical flaw of these people looking for an excuse, because shouldn't the state of mind back then be what's relevant? Right. Like, did he know what he was doing when he put it under his shirt? And then the final thing is this a recipe then for, you know, the Russians to send absent-minded 80-year-olds in to steal our classified documents? They don't have to worry about you know, any criminal charges? Is that what the Justice Department is saying? So I don't think it makes any logical sense what they've done today.
You know, me thinks, Kevin, far too much is being laid off on his memory or lack thereof, and not enough on the actual legalities of the process of reading and using classified documents. I mean, I really think they're milking this memory thing for as much as they can. And by the way, inside the report, there are sections in the report, I haven't read all of it, but I heard a lot of the news on it, that basically say Trump's going to win, and that Biden's going to go in front of a jury and, you know, be this kindly old man who can't remember a thing, and they're all going to let him off. So there was no point in charging him with any indictments. I mean, to me, this is not a real justice system. And, you know, Kevin, I've made this point. America is broken. And part of America's being broken, unfortunately, is we have a broken justice system, okay? And you mentioned this earlier, and we've talked about this, you and I, down through the years and during your speakership and so forth. This place is broken. The FBI is broken, the CIA is broken, the Department of Justice is broken, the border is broken, the economy is broken. I was going to go through some of these new CBO numbers. Maybe if the producers give me an extra minute or two, I will. But all that's broken, too. And people want it fixed. Because, Kevin, this is still the greatest country in the world. People want this America broken fixed, and they want it fixed right away.
You're 100% right. You know, we created, taking the majority, the Weaponization Committee. We went back to what has happened in the 70s to look at where this power has been. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've watched what they have done with the FBI, the DOJ, going after Americans, going after their political rivals to try to rein that in. You brought up the CBO number today. You look in the first 9 months of this year, this new majority, we passed H.R. 1 that would make us energy independent. The border security bill that would secure our border sitting over in the Senate. Parents' Bill of Rights. But when we did the debt ceiling, we were actually saving more than $2.6 trillion. That's the biggest savings ever. But we only got to look at a little bit of the budget because of the president. We have a debt bomb coming, which you two men know better than anybody else. And if we want the America we know we can be, that shiny city on the hill, we've got to take a serious look at that to make sure the next generation has the same opportunities we did.
Yeah, by the way, I was so happy to text you this morning because they've now scored you at $2.6 trillion. No, a lower deficit from the so-called debt bill that you passed. Yep. And unfortunately, a few crazies didn't want to reward you for it. But water under the bridge. Kevin.
No, They punished me for saving
I know.
2.6 trillion. They
trillion.
voted against it and voted. And
I thought
that was in
pretty
9 months. Think if they would have given me the full 2 years.
We always thought it was about 1.5 to 2 trillion. Turns out CBO gave you 2.6 trillion. Kevin Hassett, though, you look at the CBO, these CBO numbers. I mean, I've said, you and I have talked about this. The economy was stronger in the last 6 months than anybody thought. Okay, mea culpa. But the fact is, it was driven by government spending. So look at this. The spending itself, the 50-year average is 21% of GDP, which is a good way of looking at spending, 21% of GDP. By 2034, the 10-year window, 24.1% of GDP. That's the Biden baseline. And total deficits, the 50-year average is $3.7 trillion deficit, which is bad enough. Okay, I get that. But by 10 years, $6.1 trillion deficit. And the debt held in public hands has gone from 48% of GDP to 116% of GDP. And a lot of this, most of this, has come in recent years. You had the 1.9 trillion Save America bill we didn't need in March of 21. In August, you had $1 trillion infrastructure. In August of 22, you had the phony named IRA, which, by the way, has been re-estimated several times now. It's going to be over $1 trillion. In between that, you had a bailout of semiconductors for $300 billion. Kevin, I don't care whether if you're an honest Keynesian or an honest supply sider or someplace in between, you know, with an unemployment rate at whatever, 3.7%, and inflation still above target, you should not be running this kind of spending, deficits, and borrowing. If you're an honest Keynesian or an honest supply sider, I would think you would agree with that.
Right, sure. And the bottom line is that there's a very reliable relationship between extreme deficits and economic growth. And if you take the, Carmen or the Reinhardt and Rogoff work and then map it to what we're doing right now, you should expect economic growth, if we don't fix this, to be maybe about 1.5% per year lower because of this runaway spending. And, the speaker and I were just at a conference together in Florida just a couple days ago, and somebody asked me, is there something that you guys think on the economy you got really wrong on COVID? Because remember, we passed all those bills with unanimous consent that, Larry, you and the speaker were really instrumental in developing. And I think the one mistake we made is that we didn't envision that people would keep on spending all that money that was spent during the emergency. And so I think we should have put in a supermajority requirement that if you don't go back to 21% or something, then you need more than 2/3 of the House and the Senate. And if we had done that, but I didn't think, when you and I were talking about, remember, did we think that this spending that we spent because we had a 32% drop in GDP would stay? But spending hasn't gone down, even though COVID's gone.
We should have waived the payroll tax instead of a lot of that spending. I still think that you wanted it, Lindsay wanted it, I wanted it, Laffer wanted it, I think POTUS wanted it. We just never got it. I got to sign off. This is a great say. Kevin McCarthy, I know you don't like it. I'm just going to tell you, you would make a great chairman of the Republican National Committee. You could say, I know you don't want it. I understand that. I love you. You are such a great resource for the country as well as the GOP that I somehow hope somewhere, sometime, you're going to be back in play. Thanks for coming on this show today. Kevin Hassett, you're a great sport. Thank you for this. We appreciate it very much.